It's 25 days until the election. Taiwan's presidential candidates are painting a clearer picture of what they're bringing to the table.
它可以变成一个比较独立的单位，来帮助台湾的产业发展。
Running for president in Taiwan isn't just about having robust policies. There are prerequisites too, and we'll tell you what they are. Discontent over Rohingya refugees continues to mount in Indonesia. Plus,
3, 2, 1, ignition.
5G technology takes to new heights as researchers seek to enhance Taiwan's digital communications network. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Ing-wen. There are just 25 days until Taiwan's national elections. John Van Trieste brings us the latest from the campaign trail.
Though Taiwan's presidential election is less than a month away, the candidates are still refining their platforms. The Taiwan People's Party's Ko Wen-je has just announced a 7-point plan to secure the country's finances. Among his proposals, a sovereign wealth fund to get the country's assets actively earning, and a more independent central bank.
中央银行呢，因为它被背负了一个责任，所以它很难翻身呢。因为它每年要缴整个中央政府总收入的 10%的，它可以变成一个比较独立的单位，来帮助台湾的产业发展。
The Democratic Progressive Party's Lai Ching-te has taken a brief break from the campaign trail to attend to his duties as Taiwan's sitting vice president. But here, too, he's made a plug for his presidential ambitions. Lai's party rejects China's claim to Taiwan. And despite Chinese threats to invade, his DPP has stressed Taiwan's sovereignty through its 8 years in control of the presidency and the legislature. But this has hurt Taiwan's agricultural industry, as China bans a growing range of Taiwanese produce. At a meeting with young farmers, Lai said his party has weaned Taiwan off dependence on the Chinese market, with the U.S. now farmers' top export destination. He also says he sees agricultural exchanges as part of his foreign policy, and he made this pledge.
我也很希望我们台湾的年轻人能够多到海外，多看看世面，所以我有提出一个100亿的海外圆梦基金。
And the Kuomintang's Ho Yo-i has been busy meeting voters at a religious event. His first order of business at this stop was to reject claims by the New Power Party that he received illegal campaign donations back in 2018 and 2022 when he was running for mayor of New Taipei.
所有的政治现金都可检验，一切按照所有法律规定来办理。
But he's talking policy too. His latest focus is immigration. Ho proposes setting up an immigrant affairs bureau and passing a law to protect immigrants to Taiwan. He also wants a rule change so that Chinese immigrants through marriage only need 4 years in Taiwan to get a citizen ID card, the same as anyone else who immigrates to Taiwan for their spouse. From big new projects to big changes to the rules, Taiwan can expect to head in new directions, no matter who the voters decide to elect. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Who gets to be president and vice president of Taiwan? That's the question behind a recent debate over some of this election's candidates. Eric Gao takes a look at who can run and why.
Cynthia Wu wants to be Taiwan's next vice president. But her candidacy sparked a recent debate because Wu was raised a Taiwan and a U.S. citizen, and dual nationals are barred from office.
针对国籍的部分的话，就是没有除了台湾以外的国籍。
The Taiwan People's Party nominee insisted she has given up her U.S. passport, and she's since been declared eligible to run. But it's not just Wu facing doubts. Bickham Xiao, running as the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's VP candidate, has had to settle the very same question.
我从来没有放弃过中华民国国籍哦，所以也没有回复的问题。我这个美国籍在2002年哦就放弃了哦，那手上相关的证明资料文件都有。我选立法委员也选那么多次哦，已经经过考验。
The scrutiny candidates face is a sign of Taiwan's passionate political culture since democracy took hold. But the squabble over Xiao and Wu has highlighted an important question. Nationality aside, who is allowed to lead Taiwan? When Lee Teng-hui became Taiwan's first democratically elected president in 1996, the country entered a new era with new rules for public life. And those rules, set by Lee, are still shaping elections today. Under Taiwan's presidential election law, presidents and vice presidents need to be at least 40 years old and to have had a registered address in Taiwan for 15 years. The law also bars people from top office if they've committed any one of a range of crimes, including insurrection and corruption. It also disqualifies anyone who works within the election system, and crucially, anyone who's an active member of the military. When Taiwan elected Lee Teng-hui, it had just emerged from decades of martial law, where military and government worked as one, and the ruling party picked the president. The renewed focus on the rules around who can run to be Taiwan's next leader is a reminder that not long ago, no one could run at all. Devin Tsai, Stash Butler, and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
TSMC's chairman, Mark Liu, will retire from the world-famous chip-making giant next June. TSMC also announced Liu's intention not to serve on its board, despite being the company's public face since succeeding founder Morris Chang in 2018. During his tenure, Liu has expanded TSMC's operations beyond national borders amid growing tensions in the Taiwan Strait. Current CEO and Vice Chairman C.C. Wei is expected to take over and lead the company, which makes almost all of the world's most advanced chips. China has lashed out over U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, demanding that Washington stop supporting what it calls Taiwanese separatists.
中方敦促美方把坚持一个中国政策、不支持台独等承诺落到实处，停止武装台湾的危险趋势，停止制造台海紧张因素，停止纵容和支持台独分裂势力以武谋独。
Washington announced a $300 million weapon sale to Taiwan last week. The Chinese Communist Party claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory, despite never having ruled it. Taiwan's government says Taiwan is its own country and that its people will decide their own future. 3 Chinese balloons have flown near Taiwan this week. To find out what kind of Chinese military activity to expect before Taiwan's elections, reporter Rick Laut spoke to U.S. independent security analyst Ben Lewis.
So it's the second day in a row that we've seen these balloons from China flying near Taiwan. Could you tell us a little bit about them and what they might mean?
Well, we don't know a lot about what kind of balloons they are. The MND has said that basically preliminary assessment is that they're meteorological or weather balloons. But we know that the MND has previously stated that they've tracked Chinese balloons around Taiwan back when, notoriously the Chinese balloon overflew the United States. The MND around that time had mentioned that they've seen balloons pretty frequently. But starting on December 7th of this year is when the first time they ever shared information about specifically where the balloon was. And so we've seen 4 in total now, including today. All have crossed the median line and headed towards the northeast, ADIS, towards Japan.
And aside from these weather balloons, we've also seen other movements around Taiwan and through the Taiwan Strait. Is it a busy period for military action around Taiwan, and what could this mean?
Relative to this time last year, December 2022 was one of the busiest months on record. We've had a pretty low level of activity so far this month. In the last few months especially, it seems like Beijing has adopted a more election-conscious kind of strategy regarding its military activities. If you look at September, we had the largest ever Chinese carrier exercises in the Western Pacific. They made almost no public noise about it. Similarly, the carrier exercises that took place from October into November, again, there was almost no information shared. Each of those had a component that took place partially inside Taiwan's ADIS, which was definitely provocative. But it seems like the PLA has attempted to has been pulled back a bit to try and avoid accusations of voter intimidation.
And there has been a lot of talk about Chinese intimidation, Chinese grey zone warfare tactics leading up to our all-important national elections in just a couple of weeks. Can you tell us what that might look like in terms of Chinese military activity around the Taiwan Strait?
They could send large numbers of aircraft over the median line or into the ADIS in general. They could fly into areas they've never flown before. There's a large spectrum of options for China to take aggressive action. And then when you move towards the extreme end, they could conduct military exercises, something like we saw in April 2023 or in August of 2022 at kind of the most extreme.
That was independent security analyst Ben Lewis speaking to reporter Rick Lowett. Lawmakers in Taiwan have passed a record government spending bill for next year. They've approved $88 billion for the 2024 general budget. Social welfare programs, education and national defense all received funding boosts, while cuts were made to things like international travel spending, overseas training programs and several maintenance budgets. Over 100 people have been killed in an earthquake in northwestern China. The magnitude 6.2 tremor hit Gansu and Qinghai provinces just before midnight on Monday. It caused major damage, bringing down houses and disrupting power and water supplies. Rescue efforts are now underway. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen says Taiwan is ready to offer assistance in the efforts. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his daughter were snapped watching the country's latest missile test in new photos out of Pyongyang. North Korea held 2 weapons tests within 24 hours, causing regional uproar. One of those was a long-range ballistic missile which Japan and South Korea say could reach the United States. The launches came after North Korea criticized the US and South Korea's plans for nuclear deterrence. Seoul later condemned Pyongyang for what it called reckless provocation. People in Indonesia are protesting the continued arrivals of Rohingya refugees, and as Laurel Stewart reports, the cold reception for these asylum seekers is leaving them in limbo.
Anger and chaos. More than 200 people protest in front of refugee shelters in Indonesia's Aceh province. They're angry over an influx of Rohingya refugees at Sabang Island off Aceh's northern tip. It's the latest among a growing number of protests there, as over 1,500 Rohingya have arrived in the region since November. For the refugees, this latest hostility comes after years of displacement and terror. About 740,000 Rohingya left their homes in Myanmar in 2017, fleeing a brutal crackdown by security forces against this Muslim minority in the Buddhist-majority country. They were resettled in neighbouring Bangladesh, but many are now leaving what they describe as dangerous conditions in refugee camps there. One refugee who left the Cox's Bazar camp in Bangladesh says people there were being kidnapped and killed. But after 14 days at sea, he arrived in Aceh, only to face hostility. Indonesia was once a safe haven for refugees, as Thailand and Malaysia pushed asylum seekers away. But the number of people arriving this year is much larger than in previous years. 10 boats have landed since November, with the last bringing about 140 people. The protesters say the refugees are causing trouble in the region. They're calling on Indonesia's government and the UN Refugee Agency to remove all Rohingya from Sabang Island.
Saja masih banyak kekurangan, masih banyak masyarakat miskin. Kenapa kita harus menampung Rohingya yang datang sini dengan ribuan mereka?
Local NGOs say protesters are blocking food and medical aid for the refugees, and it's putting strain on the government, which has an obligation to provide for refugees and can't send them away.
I would say relocation is one, and then they will try to find temporary shelters around Aceh or probably other cities beside Aceh. The local of Aceh, they don't really open to Rohingya right now, so they're trying to find other cities for temporary shelters.
NGOs are worried the backlash against Rohingya will spread to asylum seekers from other places too. They're talking to locals about the situation refugees are facing, trying to push back against what they call hate messaging.
It builds up the empathy of people, the local people, for us to be able to give them humanitarian aid as we should.
Another boat is expected to reach Indonesia before the end of December. For those arrivals, finding consensus with locals will be a matter of survival. Patrick Chen and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, Taiwan's animal shelters are reaching their limits. More after the break.
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus. For more news from Fiji and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
This is the story of how Lithuania became Taiwan's little big best friend.
Moskva, Pekin, Moskva, Pekin. I remember this song.
There is a World Lithuanian running event. Gerai! Visi važiuojam! Lietuva!
My interest in basically in those small countries caught between empires.
I was arrested along with a partner.
Let Taiwanese feel themselves a nation on their own land.
To have any support, I'm very, very happy and very proud.
Lithuania in Mandarin, you know, Li Taiwan sounds like a little one.
Lithuania is opening its lasers showroom in Taipei.
It's a joint venture between a Lithuanian startup and Taiwanese technology company.
And in this preparation is involved 60 municipalities in Lithuania and 14 ministries.
But then politicians, they began saying to people that, oh, don't worry. What we lost with China, Taiwan will completely make it up.
Why? For what they should destroy Taiwan?
Taiwan's Little Big Friend. Coming Thursday, December 21st, 7 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. In Indonesia, a group of transgender models are recycling Jakarta's plastic waste and transforming it into a look. Sally Jensen has the story.
Polished in pink, the stunning look served up by this model, Agustina, is not what it appears at first glance. Her outfit is fashioned from plastic bottles and wrappers. She and other members of Indonesia's transgender community are parading dresses made from recycled materials.
Untuk kostum sendiri yang lain dari bahan sedotan, dari gelas-gelas plastik, garpu, sendok kita mungut.
These models aren't just resting on pretty, they're also making a positive impact. This dance studio in Jakarta has recycled the city's trash and is reusing waste materials after sterilizing them. Agustina says environmental issues are particularly pressing for her and the other performers.
Penting banget ya, karena satu, di teman-teman kebanyakan ada bekerja di lapangan sebagai pengamen. Karena di pengamen itu kita menemukan banyak beberapa polusi dan beberapa virus yang kita tidak mengetahui. Dengan bagaimana cara penularannya seperti apa kita tidak tahu dan akhirnya kita pulang ke kosan pun.
The show is an innovative way to tackle the garbage problem in Indonesia's capital, notoriously one of the most polluted cities in the world. Around 3/4 of the trash in the city's waterways is plastic. And by using it, these social activists are not just serving up art, but also awareness.
Arak-arakan keliling-keliling kampung waktu 17 Agustus, terus waktu anak mahasiswa begitu unjuk aksi ya, nah seperti itu.
This visibility is especially meaningful for the marginalized group. Even though same-sex relations aren't exactly criminalized in most of Indonesia, queerness is stigmatized in the majority Muslim country. Human Rights Watch has condemned the country's new criminal code that makes consensual sex or cohabitation outside marriage an offence. This law could particularly affect the LGBTQ+ community. But here, some local residents welcome the fashion show for taking Jakarta's waste and transforming it.
Daur ulang dari sampah apa jadi kostum, terus ada acara fashion show gini, ya ikut senang sih.
Facing the double challenges of plastic waste and discrimination, the event's curator reflects positively on its impact.
Menunjukkan diri kita ini bisa berkarya aja itu sangat susah sekali, apalagi untuk berkarya sangat susah. Tapi alhamdulillah di Sanggar Seroja kami bisa menunjukkan pada semua publik dan masyarakat kalau kami memang benar-benar bisa berkarya dan berkarya.
At the show's closing, the artists are celebrating its success for making stereotypes sashay or trashay away. Ethan Chen and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
The US has announced a new naval task force to protect shipping in the Red Sea. 10 nations, including the UK, Canada, Bahrain and several European countries, will share ships and resources for Operation Prosperity Guardian. Houthi militants in Yemen have been firing drones and missiles at commercial vessels. The militants say they are targeting the ships of Israel and its allies in response to Israel's military action in Gaza. Because of the attacks, several shipping companies, including Taiwan's Evergreen, are now avoiding the busy Red Sea route. The vital waterway connects Asia and Europe via the Suez Canal. Heavy rains have cut off several tourist towns in northern Australia along the Great Barrier Reef. Queensland authorities say they rescued about 300 people, while some residents in the city of Cairns were stuck on roofs overnight. A tropical cyclone made landfall in the country's north last week, bringing months' worth of rain in under 2 days. Authorities caught a 3-metre-long crocodile that had been lurking in the floodwaters of one town. Researchers at a university in Taiwan are hoping to push broadband communication technology with the help of 2 new satellites. Tiffany Wang reports.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
This rocket is carrying 2 satellites, which are fueling a new generation of space engineers in Taiwan. Known as Pearl 1H and Pearl 1C, the broadband communication satellites were launched last month by Taiwanese tech giant Foxconn. Now the company is collaborating with space and science researchers at National Central University to test their beyond 5G capabilities, a technology that could make digital communications even faster.
这个画面就是它一直在扫描这附近的那个波段，然后可以看到就是这个一个一个白白的比较强的讯号，是我们地面站发送给卫星的讯号。
The process requires constant oversight by researchers, as the satellite can shift its position in space, but can only be adjusted twice a day. It may take another month before the satellites stabilize, but researchers are already looking forward to future developments in the field that can be made using them.
后年的话，我们有规划另外2颗，我们叫做珍珠号的 1A、1B。那我除了进行地面通联以外，那我们会再进一步的来执行所谓的卫星间的通讯。 那这个部分我们所需要的操控技巧就更高了。
As digital communication technology develops, these researchers hope their institute can cultivate more space engineers, pushing Taiwanese talent to the forefront of innovation in the new space race. Howard Zhang and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Animal shelters in Taiwan have reached their limit as the number of abandoned pets, including exotic ones, continues to rise. Rhys Ayers has this report.
Slurping down its meal, this hungry little hedgehog is receiving the love and care it needs to make a full recovery, after being abandoned by its owner. It's one of the lucky ones, however, as animal rescue centres in Taiwan are reaching maximum capacity, with some even having to turn animals away.
有可能是因为兔年的关系，所以其实从年初我们才第1个月而已，我们就收容了大概60-70只了。
Rescue centres like this one in Taipei are at breaking point, as more people in Taiwan opt to raise pets instead of children, without considering the implications of owning animals.
大部分的人养宠物是冲动性购买，他把它当成商品，所以只要4个字就可以养，好可爱哦。
Capacity and impulse buying aren't the only issues. The increasing popularity of exotic pets in the country is leading to the abandonment of a wider variety of animals, including turtles, lizards, and even raccoons. These kinds of pets are typically much harder to raise and treat.
不能每一只宠物养买进来就像是犬猫一样照顾，因为那是完全不同物种，需求都是不同的。饲养一个 物种之前真的是得需要做好功课。
There are currently only 9 animal rescue centres in Taiwan that can cater to exotic animals. Despite there being fines for abandoning pets of any kind, experts say there aren't enough regulations when it comes to breeding and buying pets, and that Taiwan can learn from how other countries handle the issue.
像瑞士这些国家，他们都是会有很明确的规定，说你养仓鼠，你要先做好什么准备，你甚至要上课，你要取得证明说，你有那个资格才可以去做饲养。比如说，你想要养狗，他会来看你的院子的状态，看你的居家的环境状况，其实跟领养小孩很像。
Animal protection groups are taking aim at the source of the issue by proposing pet store owners and staff get qualified.
业者的责任在于必须明确的告知，而且业者进行宠物贩售销售的店员或者是店长或者经营者，他必须得有专业训练，而不是当成商品一样。
Whether it's rodents, rabbits, or raccoons, pet abandonment is an issue that spans all species. And animal rights groups hope that a combination of regulation and education can help bring some humanity back into pet ownership. Kama Xu and Rees for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we'll leave you with images of French surfers protesting the construction of an Olympic structure in Tahiti, raising awareness of the negative impact it'll have on the environment. I'm Ing-wen, take care, see you next time.